go. All right, so 3, 2, and 1. Well, Mayor Diny, we have made it here to the end of this year. We've made it. Ready to close out 2025. 24 into 25.
Into 20.
Yeah. Eventful year for you to say the least. So welcome back to Mayor's Monday here at WSAU, WSAU.com. I guess first thing right out the gate, obviously you've not quite been in this job a year yet. You'll be coming up on your 1-year anniversary next year, but still wasn't necessarily the position you thought you would be in. You had an idea, but here you are. So now what's your assessment of how the first portion of your term has gone?
Well, anytime there's change, there's some resistance, and there's the levels of forming a new group. You've got the norming, the storming. I think we've gotten through maybe some of the storming phase, and we'll get into the norming. I think the council is gelling pretty decently. We got through the budget. We made some. I'm gonna say we made some steps in the right direction. I would call them baby steps, but not to diminish anything they've done. I think they came together when I asked to dig a little deeper, and they did. And you'll see when you get your tax bill, other entities as well are feeling the same crunch. We're going to be losing ARPA. We need to make some changes, and we need to look to the future as to how we cover that.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was one of the things you said right away after the budget was passed. Is we can't rely on the ARPA. We've got to kind of reset that, push the reset button on those portions of the budget where those ARPA dollars may have been used in the last couple of years. That's not going to be available. So is that maybe one of the first things you'll look at going into 2025?
It's definitely on the horizon. So that coupled with the debt and long-term debt management, we need to get to a point where we are retiring more debt than we're adding. And I mean, that may seem kind of common sense, but we've taken on some projects that we put in place a couple of years ago that have already set the tone for future borrowing. Lead service line replacement, $2 million this year, $6 million next, 6.1 next year. If we're going to continue that, the public needs to know there's going to be that increased spending. There's no free lunches here, so let's plan for it. So I'd like to see a 5-year plan where we're reducing and retiring that debt at a faster rate than we're adding it. And it's hard to get a handle on when the torpedoes are already in the water heading your way. And then I think I termed it 2 years ago, the ticking time bomb, which is the ARPA and the grant spending on permanent positions that will eventually have to come on to the levy. And I think we're going to be able to limp through 2026, but the piper will come due, and we need to have a plan before that.
Right, and that's one thing that's it hasn't necessarily been fully discussed formally, but it's been brought up at meetings, and that's possibility of having to go to referendum for some of these positions. It's something that voters in Stevens Point have seen, and other municipalities, big and small, have seen this across the state as well. So that's something that we're not alone in that boat right now. There's been other communities that have had to make that decision.
Right, and I guess if you look at other communities, I guess it's an easy trap to fall into. It looks like free money, we get it in the short term, but not all grants are created equal. Eventually they run out, or there's a city match. Some cities chose to deal with it with the referendum, and I think 2 cities in the area, one passed it and one did not. Stevens Point did. I was opposed to going to a referendum this year. It just would fly in the face of, hey, we're trying to cut the budget, and oh, by the way, let's add 9 or 10, 12 positions. So we're going to have to plan for that. Maybe there's an opportunity to not have to go to referendum to raise the levy, because the reason for the referendum would be to raise the levy, because we're restricted on how high we can go. I promise we wouldn't do that. You're gonna have me kicking and screaming to get to agree to a referendum, and we'll have to see how that looks.
Yeah, and so that's one thing that we can look forward to in 2025, or I guess dread in 2025, however you look at it, right?
Well, if it goes the way we plan, we're looking at extension on that grant funding with SAFER, and we could get through 2026. So there's only two opportunities to do a referendum, one next year in the spring election, which we aren't going to do, and then it would be 2026 in the spring or potentially fall election, but you would have to do it ahead of the 2027 budget. So yeah, we're looking a little bit down the road, but we need to get started on that this year. What does the long-term debts look like? And how do we fill those retiring grant funds? Oh, hey, maybe we'll get a big pile coming back down on us. I don't think so.
Right. Always good to think about it optimistically, but that proverbial money tree generally runs out pretty quick.
Well, but and also if you look at the way the city is funded, we're funded largely by the levy, which is property taxes, but we're also funded by state aid. This year we're getting a roughly $9 million, and our amount went up a couple $100,000. So we got about a couple % increase. School district went from 35 to over 40 million in state aid. So they got about a 20% increase, oddly enough. I don't know what the balance of that is, but if we got more, that would be helpful. So 9 million there, and then there's also the grants that pile in on top of that. So we'll always continue to go for the good grants. We've got a few at the airport this year. Runway rebuild, we're 95% granted on that. City comes up with 5, and the terminal rebuild. That'll be online in June. Be a great it's a gateway to the city, so that's going to be a great thing to see.
Absolutely. And I know the other thing that got some talk last week at Economic Development was the North Riverfront plan. We've got taking a little bit of a different approach. Obviously, earlier this year you vetoed money for a consultant for that plan, but we're still planning for that area, just kind of in a bit of a different way, right?
Yes. So it's a pretty good chunk of land up there, and it was a long time ago. It was almost 50 years ago that we made the dedication to take industry off the river and put more living and recreation along the river. We've got the industrial park, so that's a long process. Looking at the North River front, it's an incremental process. We budgeted this year in that TID district for demolition of the water treatment plant. Once that is down, that opens that up. So it's one step at a time. You saw Alder Gisselman mentioned the concrete slab. Sure would be nice to have that demoed. It all costs money, where the old Great Lakes cheese was, making it more hospitable for those using it and maybe more welcoming to those wanting to come in. So it's a step in the right direction to kind of back of the napkin. It's a little more than that, because one of the things that the development director, Randy Pfeiffer, does, he likes to put sell sheets out on available property, or concept sheets out on what's going on. So if we're going to track somebody there, if we have somewhat of an idea of what we want, how we want to use it, it helps. That's a tool for him to do that.
Yeah, and the other thing that it seemed the alders were discussing on this as well is you don't want an industry or an industrial use to come in and all of a sudden think that, oh, this empty plot of land here, I can just take this over and make this some sort of new manufacturing, when the city has to be able to say, no, that's not the vision for the area. And that's kind of the spot that we're in right now.
Right. And we dedicated, it's been 50 years since they made that decision to put the walkway on the river walk, which we're continuing to do. So it's a long process. So again, it's incremental. But you're also, a good point is, we don't want businesses or developers coming in with some crazy ideas that, why waste their time, why waste our time? So we put kind of a blueprint out there, or a general idea of what we're looking for there. That will help target what we want. Anybody could call us at any time, say the old Great Lakes cheese. We've had several offers already on it. If it's the right fit, but we'll call out the ones that don't fit. So it does protect us in that way. And of course, it's it's decades down the road. You talked about the Superfund site there for Wausau Chemical. That could be a decade down the road. So you can at least isolate those areas, target other areas. Somebody comes in with a great idea for that, let's do it.
Yeah, and you've had a couple of opportunities like that you've mentioned. The city has those contacts. The previous economic development directors have made those contacts. I mean, these properties are on the radar. It's just a matter of finding the right fit at the right time, and of course, the right financing at the right time too. Right?
Sure. And if you have the woodchucks up there, they're bringing in softball. So they'll potentially double the number of venue or events that they'll have there. We owe them parking. So could we get a business or a development that would augment that, and they could have parking there for that use? That's something we should be looking at. So you don't want to have a parking lot sitting there vacant 300 days of the year when you could have you name it, ice rink. You could have an ice rink there.
Yeah.
You could have a little convention center there. I'm not going to enumerate all the possible ideas, but you know what I'm getting at is let's try to make it an efficient use. And if you look, I think somebody told me, I didn't listen to it. I should. Conley did a opinion piece on that woodchuck parking, and I thought it was probably we have an agreement, and it's been a long time agreement.
Right.
We need to do something up there to help the woodchucks. I mean, it's a world-class facility. It's really the best in the league, and you don't want people coming in and parking on the grass. You don't want to park in gravel parking lots. This is a facility we should show off, and let's make it a good place for them.
Yeah, and like we've talked about earlier this week, it's about a 2-year plan right now to improve the parking there. And if you do have the improved parking there as well, it might make that area just that much more attractive to others. And oh, by the way, the environmental was brought up last week as well. If you're going to cap contaminated soil, that's a pretty good way to control the contamination in there, right?
Yeah, that's an option, certainly. Plus, we don't necessarily need to take an entire 150 unit or car lot to itself. We can put them in different spots, maybe have smaller. We just picked up a house that had burned down right near there. It was donated property to the city. It will now be ADA or handicap accessible. So that'll add right there to the access and to parking. Just a few feet away from, less than a half a block away from the front door.
Absolutely, and again, we look forward to seeing what the Woodchucks are going to do with the softball program as well. Got it formally announced last week, right after the parking discussion. Ironically enough, Name the Team contest is underway. Do you have any ideas?
Oh boy,
do you have any ideas?
You got me on that one. The Conquerors has been taken. The Woodchucks, boy, it has to be one of those fun kind of beer league names.
Again, I said it with the GM. You market to the kids, and they bring their parents to the game. Or in your case, market to the grandkids, and they'll bring the grandparents to the game. So,
right. Did you watch the movie? Rosie O'Donnell was in it.
League of Your Own.
League of Your Own.
Yes.
Sure.
League of Their Own. Yeah.
There's got to be a name in that movie somewhere. Do you remember
my suggestion is the Wausau Wave, but that's go with the river. You go with some sort of animal on the river as a logo. I think that could work, but. We got to cast a wide net.
It's a Riverwalk theme. You could Riverwalk it. A Wausau theme.
Yes.
We have the storm. I don't think that's that maybe hits it with our hockey here in town. The Cyclones. Yeah, I like the wave.
Okay,
I can go with that.
All right. We'll go with it. We'll see where it goes in the Name the Team contest. And again, you're making the first kick at the Conquerors game later this month. So are you gonna? How is your softball? Have you been a pitcher, fast pitch? Do you have that drop ball, the rise ball, to do the first pitch at that first.
I'm going to have to practice
you'll-
that. I'll tell you what, I can throw a baseball. I think I could probably whip the softball. We'll give it I'll do some practice though. I guarantee you. I've never really played it outside of gym class.
Not an all-star bar league softball player.
No.
All right. Well, we'll work on that. You've got some time before the first game comes up next June, but that's going to be a great addition to the offerings in the area as well. So I'm looking forward to it.
It is, and it's in fact it's one of the. I think we talked about this once before. It's the fastest growing college sport. Mm-hmm. Women's softball. It attracts a lot of people. It's an easy. There are a lot of young women playing it, and now that they have opportunities, I think we're going to be one of the first in the area. I think very similar to some other women's sports. Wausau East now has women's, and I think West wrestling.
Yep.
So it catches on, and if it's a fun sport, people are going to gravitate toward it, and it's fun to watch.
It really is, yes. And I'm looking forward to seeing the caliber of athletes that they're able to bring in for this to provide that, like you said, that role model for the ones that are playing it right now. You develop some lifelong fans pretty quick just by signing a few autographs at the fence after the game. I can promise you that.
And it inspires others here. We have the facilities at the out at East and we have the softball facilities around town to promote that sport. I do watch the college softball World Series.
Women's
It's
WCWS,
on. It's on. I don't know if it's on ESPN, but whenever it's on, we're watching it.
Yep, absolutely. Well, again, we look forward to that. We look forward to seeing what else 2025 brings for the area. Mayor Diny, we always appreciate the time. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and yours, and we'll look forward to chatting in 2025.
Thank you, Michael, and it'll be a great year to be in Wausau 2025. Let's make it a great one. Thanks.
Absolutely.